Sure, hindsight is 20/20, but these behind-the-scenes photos showed off way more than they meant to. For as hard as studios and crews work to keep spoilers a secret, they still have to take set photos. Ever since the early days of the internet, fans have scanned and searched these images for plot details. Oh, face it, it's always lovely to be the detective and figure out more about a film than the director wants you to know. Wait, stop, before you say it, yes, we know the book came out before the movie, so lots of people knew how this film would end. Despite that fun fact, we're still willing to put this in the spoiler category. Why? Well, mostly because we never know how exactly the movies would play out. They tend to cut a lot from the book. When fans saw Maggie Smith holding the newspaper off camera, they knew one aspect of the book would take center stage: the political fight between the Ministry and Hogwarts. Again, partially evident, but the paper told us they'd also resolve that tension in this film by the end. No matter how you swing it, it deflates the conflict going into the movie quite a lot. Welcome to the first entry of many that covers a pre-2000s movie. You remember the 90s, right? A time before all the internet memes and story leaks that dominate most of the internet. Heading back to a time before the Titanic came out may feel strange, but bear with us. Audiences had no idea what the through line would be for this movie. Okay, so clearly the Titanic was gonna sink. That's not a spoiler. No one would have guessed that Jack and Rose both weren't going to make it onto that now infamous door. If you looked at the promotional set photos, this ending was staring you straight in the face. Notice how Jack still doesn't manage to fit on the door, people! Here we have another classic film that wasn't spoiled before its theatrical release, but has been heavily spoiled in later years. Sure, The Shining is an adaptation of a Stephen King novel, but Kubrick was hyper-aware of this fact. Hence the reason he changed so much of the story in his retelling, including the ending. Jack freezing in the snow is no longer a shock to anyone. It's literally a meme now, you guys. The meme did a lot of work to take the tension out of this terrifying thriller, but the set photo of Jack Nicholson getting prepped to shoot the scene hasn't helped either, okay? It's a shame because the final moments work best when you don't know what's coming. In 1999, The Matrix took the nation by storm and introduced so many dudes to duster jackets. The leather industry was thriving. The film, though, is now famous for the amount of detail the Wachowskis put into production between the CGI and camera work. If only they paid more attention to marketing and behind-the-scenes work. A famous photograph of Agent Smith and Neo flying at each other in midair tends to make rounds around the internet today. Anyone who's ever seen The Matrix isn't surprised by this photo, but imagine coming to the film fresh. The central point of tension is whether Neo will discover his powers in time to help his friends. You know the answer if you see the photo before the movie now. Okay, we've been spoiled in more than one way with this entry. Before the Avengers came out, superhero films were something you went to see and be disappointed in. They never seemed to take enough risk or watered down the product. We certainly never expected to see our favorite characters fight together or against each other at any point. Then we saw the set photos for this film and, sure enough, Thor was fighting against Hulk. The excitement was non-stop. We had nowhere to go but up by that point, and things would never be the same. Face it, it was so cool most people didn't mind knowing that little tidbit before going in. It just stinks that they spoiled the second fight in Thor Ragnarok too. Alfred Hitchcock would probably ban this photo of him directing the shower scene in Psycho if he knew the damage it would do to this movie. Besides the fact that everyone and their mother parody this scene, the set photo tends to push the spoilers over the top. We all know it happens at some point, but seeing Hitchcock direct the scene makes it clear it is super important. We won't say precisely why it's a huge spoiler because, surprisingly, some people out there still don't know what scene we're referring to here. All we can say is it's one of the biggest plot twists in Hollywood history. Most people's jaws hit the floor when they see it, unless of course they see this photo and are aware of any parodies that exist. Now, here's an example of an image that doesn't entirely ruin the movie. Unfortunately, Iron Man 3 is arguably one of the least exciting films we will discuss in this video. Look, we're not saying it's a bad movie, it's just a bit boring at times and tends to move too slow for most viewers. In fact, this photo spoils one of the most tense moments. The Barrel of Monkeys scene is a masterclass in building, then resolving the tension in a single scene. It's what we want to see from a hero. All that gets tossed out the window if you know what happens in the end. The promotional material caught a fantastic example of movie magic, but at the cost of dissolving the tension in an otherwise great MCU moment. It is hard to remember a time before Revenge of the Sith was a movie all about the memes.
I am the Senate.
We can't watch the Obi-Wan General Grievous fight without laughing now. Look at what you've done to us! But before all the memes and whatever the sequel trilogy was supposed to be, there was hope that this final Star Wars film would end it all on a high note. Everyone and their mother knew Anakin would turn into Darth Vader by the end of the film. It's not a shocker if the whole trilogy is building up to that moment. Everyone wondered what would happen to Anakin to turn him to the dark side. What moment put him into that suit? What's that? Oh, they published photos of Anakin. He looks burnt to a crisp in this makeup. Welp, there goes that question. And speaking of the sequel trilogy, here's the entry of a leaked photo that ended up causing threads and threads of online fan theories, most of which turned out to be near spot on. Fans saw the Millennium Falcon and instantly circulated ideas of why it would need to be included on Luke's island. Sure, Rey obviously needed to get there, but why build it into the set? The dots started forming quickly, and soon enough, some people had a guess. Obviously, Rey would be trained by Luke. They are spending too much time on this set for it to be a brief scene. Including the Falcon means that Rey will need a way off the island in a hurry. Sure enough, Rey would leave just like that. Hey, grab the time machine and punch in the date for May 25th, 1979. Now, show a bunch of people about to see Alien this photo from the film's set. At first, the casual moviegoer will think nothing of this. However, the minute you get out of the first act, it instantly spoils the ending. Ripley never goes down with the crew to the planet to explore. She is one of the few who doesn't put on a suit. Since she doesn't put it on at that point, the only other scenario is at the end of the film. Sure enough, that's what happens. She puts on the suit and blasts the xenomorph out into space like the one player acting sus in Among Us. It was red! Let's turn our attention to a different genre here, something on the lighter side of things. Yeah, we want to talk about Ghostbusters, and a scene bound to go down in the history of comedic cinema as an all-timer. Yep, we're talking about the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the one thing Rey could think of before their eventual doom. Of course, the moment loses its laughs if you know what monster is about to be unleashed upon New York City. The funny thing is, they released a set photo of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and the set built around him before the film's release. Nowadays, the picture's everywhere, so it's hard to watch Ghostbusters for the first time without knowing that guy's coming. Oh, how does one even begin to discuss Kill Bill? Do we talk about it as one movie? Or do we address the fact that it was released in 2 parts? Especially considering the fact that the first volume was big time spoiled by a photo from behind the scenes. See, if you see Volume 1 as a standalone film, then the climax is when Oren Ishii and the bride finally battle it out. She's the big rival Uma Thurman's character needs to take out. But it's a 2-part movie, so maybe she would survive, right? Well, no, actually. If you saw this photo before the film, you can clearly see the practical effects of Oren Ishii's demise underneath the towel, spoiling that whole moment. Watching Calvin Candy get the ending he deserves is one of the most cathartic moments in a Tarantino movie. From there, all this chaos ensues because our protagonists were caught in a rat's nest regardless. Now the emergency button has been pushed, and we're getting the dramatic action we all expect from his movies. If you pause here and ask a buddy how it'll end, they're saying either Django escapes or gets nixed by the overwhelming numbers. Of course, that's not how it happens, but that's what the story wants you to expect. Then again, none of this matters because the set photos literally show Django being captured. If you paid any attention to the film's production before release, then you knew it was coming. The Dark Knight didn't sneak up on anybody. Fans were begging for this film to finally come out. Any bit of news or images from the set was instantly all over the internet, which ended up ruining the beginning for a lot of fans. The bank heist scene from the intro to this film is often forgotten now. We see it and look forward to it, but we forget about seeing it for the first time. You're supposed to have no idea one of those men is the Joker. At the very least, you're meant to be guessing the entire time as they each get knocked off one by one. None of this matters with this set photo that also highlights the late Heath Ledger without the Joker makeup. One last classic film that's worn down with time. Men in Black is a film that we no longer appreciate like we should because CGI has advanced so much since the film first came out. The first movie did a fantastic job building out the world reimagined as a secret spot for aliens to come live. On top of that, it did a concrete job building a story with real intrigue. We forget this old dude with a tiny alien inside him was meant to be a surprise. Viewers who saw the set photo obviously knew it was coming, and that is a huge bummer. There's nothing like discovering the guy is secretly that tiny alien hiding right in plain sight. It is incredible to see how set photos and what they show have changed over time. Did we miss one of your favorite pre-release spoilers? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more content from Screen Rant.